I think the older we get, the wiser we can be about what work is our sweet spot or that really special space that you perform best in. I'm in a place now where I'm asking myself, what now? Or where next?
Welcome to the Smart Talk series, the show for professionals who want strategies, tips, and real talk about all things PR, marketing, and social media. Your host is Melissa Vella Williamson, an award-winning, accredited, and nationally recognized PR pro and communication thought leader. And now your host, Melissa Vella Williamson.
Hello and welcome to the Smart Talk series. I'm Melissa Vella Williamson. This season, our focus is on evolving your career. During this series, I will introduce you to tenured, acclaimed communication professionals from across the U.S. who have gone through major shifts during their careers. If you're new to the Smart Talk series, I kick off each season on my own and then bring in more industry experts to discuss these topics with. Check out seasons 1 through 5 for lots of Smart Talk discussions. Candid, helpful talk on topics like public relations, crisis communications, communicating during turbulent times, social responsibility, multicultural marketing, and more. Let's jump in and get started with this season's focus, career evolution. As PR and communication pros, we often talk about being strategic. But are we being strategic in what we do with our careers? The first job we land to start our career is often the hardest. But each job from there really should be thoughtfully considered and hopefully was strategically sought after. But that's not always the case for us. All too often, I hear from pros who seem to go from job to job like a leaf in the wind. They go wherever the wind took them. So it's really a good time for us to do a self-check. We've been through a pandemic. It's been a few years. There's a lot of talk about burnout. So let's ask ourselves, are we where we want to be career-wise? Here's some tough questions to consider. Do you still like doing the work you're doing? Does your work environment still suit you? Are you making the money you need to make? Could you do with a job that paid you less? Or do you absolutely need to make more? Oftentimes, I hear pros talk about their salary needs. I need to make 6 figures. I need to make at least $80,000. But the job titles and the demands that come from some of the higher paid roles in public relations and communications often are very stressful. So in some heart-to-heart sessions, I may ask a pro if they're a friend, do you really need to make that salary? Like, what's your budget like, right? Because as we get older and more tenured in our careers, our health starts changing. I've always heard that from those in my family who are older that, oh, this hurts or that hurts, or, all of a sudden your body just doesn't function as well as it used to. And I was complaining one day to my doctor saying, I don't know why it takes so long to bounce back from things, right, at this age. And she said to me, our bodies just function less well every year that we're alive. And I was a little appalled by that, right? Because I'm not that old, and I bet you're probably not either. At least you probably don't feel like you are like I do, right? But the point was that we need to be more conscious about how we take care of ourselves and how we manage our bodies so that they can fulfill our needs. And honestly, when we think about our salary, I've been in all kinds of roles, and I'll tell you that some of the ones that pay the best, like crisis comms work, super, super taxing and stressful for most pros. So I always want to ask those that close with, and it's kind of a safe conversation, do you really need that salary? Or could you take a job that paid you less, but gave you more autonomy or flexibility, or you had a better stress experience with it? Because that's really important, and I think that becomes more important as we age, for sure. So that's one of the questions I want to just be honest with and put out there is, Are you making the money you need to make? So you certainly don't want to be in a job that doesn't pay you enough and you're not getting by well. But do you keep going after the next role and the next role just based on the salary idea that you think you need to have? And maybe if you paid off some school debt, like that was a big chunk of our debt in the beginning of our marriage, or if you just tighten up purchases a little bit, then maybe you could take something that was an area that you really love to work in, but just didn't pay as high, right? So consider that as you think through these questions. And another question that you definitely want to consider is, have you reached a ceiling of what you can do in your current role? Sometimes there's nowhere else to go for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes organizations or departments just don't allow you to do more. And there's all kinds of politics behind it that sometimes we don't know about, or maybe there's other reasons. But I've certainly seen that where I really can't do much more in this role and what I'm able to do for this organization. Do you keep getting passed over for a promotion and are not told why? That's often, I would say, at least a yellow flag in our careers. Is that if there's a promotion opportunity or another role inside the organization that you apply for, and you've done your time in your role and you've met your goals, or at least you think you had, and you get passed over, then there's something missing. And if you are a supervisor or an HR or have any ability to be honest with someone that's in that position, they're like, I just don't know why I keep getting passed over. Please have that hard talk or smart talk conversation with them. Let them know, is it their presentation skills? Is it the way they manage communication and email? Is it that they push back in a way that's very negative? A lot of times this has to do with soft skills and things that we can actually get better at if we knew about them. But if you are getting passed over for a promotion and not told why, it is a flag or indication from your organization that growth may not be an opportunity there. And are you still a fit with your organization's direction today? There are some pros that have worked in their role for years, right? More than 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years. And how their career began is very different than where they are now. And what the organization values and does can often change too. So you want to assess that. And are you learning new things? And are you able to do new things in your role?
Hi, this is Anais Miracle, a proud supporter of the Smart Talk series. As a sponsor, I would like to share a few organizations I support, and they include Southwest Key Programs, the Hispanic Women's Network of Texas, Fierce Mujeres, and the Hispanic Public Relations Association, HPRA, the Texas chapter. Please find out more information about these organizations in the show notes. And thank you to Melissa Vela Williamson, a steadfast leader in the space of Hispanic public relations and public relations overall. And thank you for all that you do for Latinas like myself in public relations.
Certainly, I've learned over time that bigger isn't always better when it comes to money and job titles. But that even applies to going for jobs at big organizations. So many pros want to work for a big corporation, but once they're in there, they realize, oh, the work I am able to do is quite small. They're not able to work on as many aspects of public relations or communication as they could at a smaller agency or a smaller organization. And their work discipline is much more narrow in a setting of a big corporation or a big organization. And that can leave you feeling boxed in. And if we're boxed in to only do one type of communication, that can limit our career trajectory right then and there. Where sometimes these organizations are so large that you have to get so many approvals to even make a move that change just really feels like it takes forever to make. So this season, I want you to think about your current role, your current job or business, and ask yourself, what's my next step? Is it a time for career evolution? In my career, each position has been a building block to the next step. but hindsight is 2020. So I didn't see that at the beginning of my career, but I can see that now. And I certainly didn't have a strategic plan for my career path at the beginning, but now I'm much more intentional. It's been 20 years into my PR career. And if you add in my part-time jobs that I had in college, that's about 4 more years of work experience. And I add those in because even the small part-time jobs I started work with help me today. I can now see a connection point across each job. For example, my very first job was taking photos at SeaWorld San Antonio. And I got that job because I had been in love with photography in high school. And back then, we were actually taking photos on traditional cameras with film, and we did the developing and printing in blackroom labs. And I just love that whole process. But when it came to, I need to get my first job, I need some gas in my car, or I need to be able to get to college, I went back to what I knew, which was, well, I'm good at the creative arts and I love photography. And I have a friend who's working and doing photography there at SeaWorld. And that was the front gate photography. So imagine back in the day when you'd walk into a theme park and someone like me, a front gate shooter, camera photographer, would stop you and ask you if you'd like to take a photo right when you walk in the park. And a lot of people actually say no, but you should say yes. Number one, because often the photographers can't go inside and take breaks until they've taken all their photo quotas. And back then it was like you had to finish your rolls of film before you could go inside and turn them in for developing. But I learned great things being that front gate photographer because people didn't often want to talk to me right when they walked in the door. But I learned how to sell. I learned how to offer them something that would benefit us both. Hey, can I take your photo? If you like me, take a photo with my camera. That's free. I'll give you a card. You can take a look at it, but I'll also take one with yours. And I learned about framing in high school. So I would frame it up so I'd get the logo in the background in a way that most people who just pick up a camera and take a photo don't think about. It's always look good. And so it became a win-win. And in that role, it was so tough dealing with the South Texas heat and people who were there to have a great time at the theme park and were rushing in. And then later when we would show them the photos and try to sell them prints, it would often be at night. So you're talking like 10 p.m. after you've walked a huge theme park all day long and you're hot and you're tired and you're sweaty and maybe your kids are crying and you come up to the photo booth and I'm there to show you your photo. Well, guess what? You took your photo at the beginning of the day, so you look fresh and your family looks happy, and that's the memory you can walk away with. But you also have an extra on your camera, so you don't need to buy mine, right? But people would still stop by. And I learned then and there, if I could provide warm, friendly customer service and kind of go a little extra and throw in a value add when it was possible, I could make the sale. And quite honestly, having that work really built up my thick skin, as they say in PR, so that I was able to take no's. And if you connect the dots, we do a lot of sales in public relations, whether we're asking for a story opportunity or pitching a partnership idea, or we're trying to get people to buy tickets to an event. That's all sales work and customer service, the follow through, right? And the follow up. And so even that very first little job that now I wouldn't put on my resume, I still talk about all the time. In fact, I did a media relations workshop for our local Zoom a few times. And every time I'd go back to what I learned about what it was like to shoot photos with the Clydesdales and how you had to be ready for moments when the animals did things you didn't expect them to do, right? And take care of them so that the humans could take care of themselves. So everything we do can really count towards our experience. But then I was just happy to get my first job. And now you want to think about where you're going from here. That role at SeaWorld doing photography led me to want to work inside, but still do photography. And so I worked at JCPenney and Sears Portrait Studios. And that work, getting people ready for their headshots, really is what they were, right? We do a lot of headshot work in marketing comms. Well, getting them ready meant watching where their necklace was laying and making sure they didn't have hair flyaways and whatnot. I still do that today, that meticulous nature I was taught about there helps me today, helps me with my team today, because it's the same mistakes that come up. You can hire a professional photographer and they send over the headshot photos and there's a glare on the glasses. And I wasn't on site, so I couldn't remind them, hey, tilt the glasses so there's no glare. Those are things that I learned in my very first jobs. So I just want you to encourage you to think about those kind of skills and how we build off each other. From there, I worked at a gym at the front desk, and that ended up enlightening a lot of my work when I did health and wellness communication and program development. And of course, every PR marketing role has built off each other. You learn skills or you manage projects at one that, if you think about it, can help you with best practices at the other. But sometimes when you take a new role or evolve your career and go in a direction that's a little atypical in the field, it may look like you're walking onto a whole new path. That's not necessarily the case. When I applied for a diversity and inclusion role at a corporation, it seemed like I was walking away from PR from some of my colleagues, or that I didn't exactly have the experience I needed for the role when it came to talking with the recruiter at the corporation. But I was able to really convince everyone and show them how PR could help DEI work and how practicing multicultural PR marketing could support the DEI efforts we were doing and vice versa. Now that I run my own firm, MVW Communications, I try to optimize for work that I love and for work that lights me up. I think the older we get, the wiser we can be about what work is our sweet spot or that really special space that you perform best in. I'm in a place now where I'm asking myself, what now? Or where next? Over the years and in the coming decades, I may retire from some parts of PR, but I'll probably never fully retire if I'm healthy. I'm excited to teach more in scalable ways and want to keep pushing the industry forward and keep forecasting what's around the next corner for us pros. In this series, I'm excited to speak with Molly McPherson, Bernice Chow, Jennifer R. Hudson, Ken Jacobs, and Julie Livingston. I hope their career evolution stories give you ideas and inspiration so your next step is in the direction you'd most like to go. Thanks to our listeners for joining me for today's episode. We love diving deep into communication topics to elevate our industry practice. You can work with me as a trainer, consultant, or hire my firm, MVW Communications, for strategic planning or PR strategy services. In case you missed it, Smart Talk, Public Relations Essentials all pros should know, is out. You can buy your print or audiobook copy to get award-winning advice, lessons, and tools about all things public relations. Available on Amazon or get an autographed copy at mvw360.com/book. Grab your copy there and please leave us a review. It would mean the world to me and helps more aspiring or working professionals find us. And as always, think smart and communicate smart. And I'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Smart Talk series. If you learned something or enjoyed our conversation, share it on social media or send to a friend. To learn more about this and other communication topics, visit mvw360.com. That's mvw360.com.